Okay, my dear students, so we are going to discuss the for loops today. For loop, this is a kind of loops in which statements uh, are the group of statements executed multiple times. So if a statement or group of statement executes multiple times, so we call it a loop. So it's a kind of a repetition of executing a single statement or the multiple statements or group of statements. And for loop is, you know, for loop is one of them. So this is the for loop. It is one of them. So we have already discussed the while loop and a do while loop. Today we are discussing this lecture the for loops. So we will see how it works and what is the structure of the for loop in the C++ programming, and what are the examples that can we illustrate the for loop in the C++. So dear students, this is the flow chart of the for loop. As you can see that first we will require the initialization. Initialization of any variable. We shall declare a variable first, and then we shall initialize that variable herein before executing the for statement. Okay, we can also introduce initialization as part of the loop as well. So we will see how can we actually uh, can introduce the declaration and initialization part into the structure of the for loop. Okay, so then the execution will come in the processing will come to the condition, and the condition will be checked. If the condition become false, so the execution will directly jump out of the block of for loop. Okay, this is so simple. If condition becomes false, so the execution will jump out uh, of the block of the for loop. But if condition becomes true, so what will happen? The body of the for loop will execute. Remember that body may be single line statement, single line, can be single line statement, or multi lines statement. Sorry, multi-line statement. So if it is multi-line statement, so it must be enclosed in the curly braces. Okay, and if it is single line, body, so then there is no need to introduce the curly braces for single line. So you can introduce as well, but there is no need of introduction of the curly braces to the single line statement. Okay, so let's see, guys, uh, how the update occurs. Then, if whenever the action performed in the body is executed, then the update will be occur to the increment or decrement operator, or we can say the counter operator, which will be updated accordingly, and the condition will be checked again. Okay. In the first iteration, we have seen that the body was executed just because of the condition was became true. Okay. And in the second iteration, the execution will come again, and it will check the condition. If the condition becomes true, so the second iteration will perform. Okay, and then at second time it will come again to check the condition. If condition becomes true, even a third time it will execute the body of the for loop, and then again the execution will come and will check the condition, and if the condition become false, so the execution will just jump out of the body of the for loop. So this is the whole phenomena of how can we introduce the for loop in our programming logics. Okay, so this is the flow chart of the for loop. Now let's see how can we actually introduce the for loop in our programming. Okay, remember that this for loop, the syntax of this for loop can be utilized anywhere in almost variety of languages, the programming languages. So you must just know the syntax of the for loop, and you should be clear with the concept of the for loop. Then it's so easy to implement it in other languages, programming languages. Okay, so first of all, what we need to introduce is, you know, the reserve keyword. For loop, this is the reserve keyword. Then the parenthesis, the open parenthesis, and the closing parenthesis. Okay, this is the closing parenthesis, while this is the opening parenthesis. Now we have already seen that there were three statements in our flowcharts. One was the initialization of a variable, including maybe declaration as well, but not necessarily. We can introduce the initialization. This is a single statement. Here you can see terminated by the semicolon. Okay, then we need a conditional expression, the statement. This condition statement is very similar to the condition statement which we introduce in the if else and if else if conditions. Okay, though, so we have already seen the conditions in while loop and do while loop as well. So in similar way, we can use condition statement here in the for loop. So in condition statement, we use normally the relational operator, you know, the relational operator. So relation operator are, you know, equal operator, or maybe sorry, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and not equal to. So these are considered as the relational operator, and we can use it in our condition statement. Okay, so this condition statement can be a compound condition statement as well. How can we make it compound? By introducing the logical operators, you know, the or operator, and operator, and not operator. Okay, so we can make it compound of two conditions or even three conditions. But whenever we introduce the multiple conditions expression in a single statement, then we should take help from the or operator or the and operator, and or maybe from the not operator. So these are the logical operators that we can also introduce. Okay, so the third statement was the updation of the variable, so that we may update the initialized variable, okay, this one. So this initialized variable should be updated in each iteration, each iteration. Okay, but except the first one, except first iteration. Okay, this is iteration I. So updation will be performed and executed in all iterations, even in the last iteration when the condition will become false. But this updation will not be performed in the first iteration. Okay, so it means that initialization will perform only in the first iteration, and it will be never ever executed in rest of the operations. Condition will be performed in the first iteration, in all other preceding iterations, and even at the last iteration as well. So condition will be execute in either case, while updation will execute only in the this updation will be executed only in all iterations except the first iteration. Okay. So how can we introduce the body of the for loop is by introducing the curly braces, and we have already discussed that if somebody want to introduce only a single line for the for loop here in the body, single line, so then there is no need to introduce the curly braces. Okay, you may introduce or you may not introduce in case of when you or you want to write, you want to code for a single line statement. Otherwise, if you want to have multiple statements, in your body of the for loop, so then it is must and necessary to introduce the curly braces in the body of for loop. Okay, so here you can see some processes shown by the arrows. Let me erase the notations. Okay, so let's see, these are the relational and logical operators. Okay, so here you can see that first step initialization will be performed and there will be no other execution and other part of the for loop. Okay, and then soon after initialization of a variable, we will see that execution will come to the conditional statement and condition will be executed and condition will be checked by the arithmetic logic unit. Okay, so if the condition becomes true, so obviously you can see here this line shows that if the condition becomes true, so the body will be executed and this is the body of the for loop. Okay, however, if condition become false, if this condition become false, so then the execution will come just outside of the body of the for loop. And you can see that the for loop is now stopped, the execution of the for loop is stopped, and other than the statements of for loop will be executed. Okay. What if it gives the true answer? So let's see. This is the true. If condition becomes true, so the execution will come through this path and the body will be executed. So this body will be executed when the condition becomes true. So when the body is executed in a sequential process at once, so after finishing executing these statements in the body of the for loop, then execution will come to the updation statement, okay, and we will check, we will update the counter statement, which we were introduced here in initialization, and we will see our example that how can we update our counter statements. Okay, so we will update that counter statement and that variable, okay, using increment or decrement operators. Okay, and then after updation of that statement, the execution will come to the conditional statement, and again the condition will be checked. It means that the counter variable will be checked here. So if counter condition is fulfilled according to the criteria that we actually introduce as per our relational operator, whether it is greater than or less than or equal to or not equal to, so if it becomes true, the condition, so the same path will be followed again and again, the body will be executed, and then we will see that execution will come again to the updation statement, and in similar way the updation will be performed, then condition will be checked, and after condition checking the execution will be either come through the true path or either with the through false path. So we have seen here that initialization statement executed only for once, okay, in the first iteration. Condition executes in the first iteration in all iteration, okay. while updation executes in all iteration except the first iteration. Okay, so this is the small, the brief overview of how can we introduce the for loop and how it actually executes um, in the programming, and what is the logic of the, and we have already seen the, the syntax, that we need to introduce the for parentheses, and there must be three statement inside the parentheses: initialization, condition, and update. Then there should be a body. Okay, so remember that there is no semicolon, here to terminate the for loop. Okay, so this is as per the syntax of the for loop. So here you can see there is no semicolon. Okay, so you shall not introduce the semicolon. Remember, this is one of the error that normally the students do it while they program for any problem, or when they ask to program for any question. Okay, so let's see some more detail. Here is the syntax. Okay, this is again we are here. We see for is should be parentheses, in closing parentheses. There should be initialization and terminator, condition and terminator, and updation and no terminator. Okay, and then there should be an action. So action can be a single line or multi-line statements. Okay, so if action is multi-line, so then you should introduce the curly braces if it is multi-line action. Okay, how it works? So it executes first the initialization statement, and then the condition is checked. If it is true, so execute the action, and update statement is executed. Okay, and if it is false, then action is not executed and update is not executed, because the execution comes and jump out of the for loop. Okay, here you can see at the bottom of the slide that we have a for loop actually written in C++ language. Okay, so first we need to introduce a variable that is, we all know that it is known as declaration of a variable, and that variable is utilized for the initialization as per our syntax introduced here in the syntax. This is the initialization. Okay, so this statement is known as initialization, and then there is a terminator as per our syntax. Then you can see that we have put it a condition here: I is less than or equal to 20. So this is the relational operator. Okay, less than or equal to. So this condition has been introduced for the variable I, which was initialized here in initialization statement. So in this case, I is equal to 1. So 1 is less than or equal to 20. Yes, the condition become true. So 20 is actually the controlling constant. It introduced that our loop is a finite loop. So our loop will actually executed for 20 iterations, maybe for 20, starting from 1 and less than or equal to 20. It means that we will start iteration from first iteration, then it will be proceed to the second, third, fourth, fifth, unless it reaches the 20 iterations. Okay, so when it reaches the 21 here, when I becomes the 21, so it means the condition will become false. So in that iteration, the for loop will become false, and this body will not be executed. Okay, so this is single line for statement, remember. uh, okay, comes to the this is the update statement, where we actually update the variable, the initialized variable. This is the initialized variable which was declared before the initialization here. So we update that variable in update statement. So in each iteration, I will be updated with 1. Okay, so if it was before I is equal to 1, so in second iteration it will become 2, in third iteration it will become 4, and then 5, and then 6. And in each iteration, the value of this y, this updated y, will be checked in the condition that if the value of I is less than or equal to 20, so if it is less, so condition will becomes true and the body will be executed. If it becomes false, so the body will not be executed. Okay, and then there is a cout statement. You can see here cout statement. In cout, we are going to print the value of I in each iteration. Sorry, this is not value of I, because it is enclosed in the double quotes. You can see here double quotes, so it will be printed as it is. So I is space will be printed on the screen, and then we can see that here I is without double quotes, so I will be printed, not printed. The value of I will be printed. Okay, so in the first iteration, of the I, okay, of this loop, I was, I is equal to 1. So you will see that on the screen there is 1. It will be printed. We will see the value of I, which is 1. Then it will be updated to 2. So condition will become true and cout will be executed again. So I was updated to 2. So we will see 2 on the screen. Okay. Then I here, I will again updated, and the value of I will be updated to 3. Okay, 3. And this will be checked in the condition. If condition is true, which is 3 is less than or equal to 20, yes. So this cout statement will executed again, and we will see 3 on the screen. Okay. So similarly, then I plus plus will execute, and I was 3, and now it will become 4, and 4 will be checked in the condition. If 4 is less than or 20, yes. So cout. So you will see that at the end of the operation iterations, okay, so I will become 20 somewhere at the end. Okay, so when I becomes 21, so you will see that 21 is less than or 20. No, condition will become false. Okay, so when the condition become false, so the body of the for loop will not executed. Even the execution will jump out of the for loop to the outer statements, or if there is no statement, so your program will become halt. Okay, will be stopped execution. So this is the overall phenomena of the for statement, and let's see how can we execute this program in our diff C++. Here you can see, okay, now it is enough large size that you can see on the screen. Yes. Okay, so we have introduced a very small example, the sample example for the for statement. So we have actually declared a variable here. I'm sorry, this is not the presentation. Okay, so here we have declared the the variable integer I. Okay, and in this same statement we have also initialized a value to the I. So this statement represents the declaration as well as initialization of a variable. So we have performed both the operation in a single statement. Okay. You can also take this declaration part to the just above the for loop. Okay, we will see it. Now we will check that if the value of I is less than or equal to 10, is less than or equal to 10. So if the value of I is less than or equal to 10, then the cout operation, this statement will be executed. Okay. So execution will come directly to the body of the for loop. However, if the condition become false, so execution will come to the end of the function and your program or software will halt and finish the execution. Okay, so first this statement will be executed, then the condition will be checked, and then body of the for loop will be executed if the condition becomes true. After that, you will see that the increment operator will be executed and I will be updated. The value of I will be updated. So initially, I was equal to 0. So 0 is less than or equal to 10. Yes. So we will see 0 on our screen in the first iteration. Okay. And then we are updating the value of I while introducing the increment operator here. So this increment operator can be written in the form of I plus plus, or I is equal to I plus 1, or I plus equal 1. So there are three ways to introduce this increment operation here in the update statement. Okay. Okay, so increment will be performed and then execution will come again to the condition. So it means that in first iteration we will see that I is updated to 1 because initially it was 0. So now it will become 1. So 1 is less than or equal to 10? Yes, of course. So the for loop will become true and therefore the body of the for loop will be executed. Okay. So then again the increment operator will be executed. The update statement will be executed and I is now 2. So and when I plus plus execute, then the value of I will be updated to 3. So 3 is less than or equal to 10? Yes, it is. Okay. So in this way, we will see that if I becomes 11 while executing the while in execution of the increment operator, so I will become 11. So 11 is less than or equal to 10. So in that case, the condition will become false. So if condition become false, so this body will not be executed and the for loop, the execution of the for loop will be stopped and the execution will come just outside of the body of the for loop at the end of the, this is the end of the, our program or main function. So this is a very simple example of the for loop and let's see compile and run this program. Here you can see the full execution that our program prints 1, sorry, initially 0 because the value of 0 in first, the value of I is 0 in initial iteration, in the first iteration initially. Then the I value become 1 and we see is on the screen as well in output. Then it becomes 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, and then 6, sorry, then 7, then 8, and then 9, and then we see the 10. So it means that our loop is executed 11 times, okay, not 10 times, because we are printing from 0 to 10. So 0 to 10 means that we are executing our loop 11 times, okay. But if you want to print start printing from the 1 and you want to execute it for only 10 times, so then there is an option that, let me there is an option. You can just change the value of initialization. This is 1. Now this loop will execute for 10 times only while printing the values from 1 to 10. So let's see. Now you can see that, sorry, starting from 1, this is 1, okay. uh, Start printing from 1 and up to 10. So you can see here that the last value is 10 and the first value is 1. So we have actually executed the for loop from 1 to 10. Okay.